Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Salant. I am the HOA Information Officer for the Division of Real Estate, which is housed in the division of, which is a division of the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies, also known as DORA. This morning, we are going to talk about board member roles and responsibilities. We'll discuss the specific duties placed upon board members, as well as the many concepts and obligations that a board member must understand and abide by. There are 3 handouts attached to this webinar: a PDF copy of this presentation, a copy of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, and a copy of the Colorado Nonprofit Act. You may download them at any time by clicking on the blue links located under the Handouts tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. This webinar will also be recorded and uploaded to YouTube. Once available, you may access it via the link to the division's YouTube channel on the PDF handout of this presentation in the second to last slide. Please note that the information provided during this presentation is for educational purposes only and is not meant to provide or to be construed as legal advice. Any legal questions should be directed to your attorney. This slide shows you the division's HOA Information and Resource Center website, where you can find information and resources concerning board member education, educational guidance on buying a home in an HOA, HOA-related state and federal laws, reports and educational publications, helpful links for association members, board member frequently asked questions, registering an HOA, filing a complaint against an HOA, and registering for an HOA forum. You may find it at www.colorado.gov/pacific/DORA//HOA-information-and-resource-center. This slide shows a newly created section of the website for the HOA Center that contains 16 board member education videos that can assist board members and homeowners understand their roles, rights, and responsibilities related to overseeing and living in an HOA. Please visit this new website page for some great information. It will be the first link under the HOA and resources section on the webpage in our last slide. The role of an HOA board member. So what is the role of an HOA board member? A board member's position will involve leadership and trust. When deciding whether or not to be a candidate for board membership within your association, it is important to consider the many facets of becoming a community leader. This involves many concepts and obligations that a board member must understand and abide by. So let's talk about that role. One of the many roles the board plays within an HOA has to do with the establishment of policy. Effective leadership in this role is essential for creating a community that will benefit all of its members and facilitate trust between homeowners and the board. Board members are in a position of trust and must manage the association's resources in a way that sustainably benefits the community as a whole. An HOA's board should consist of volunteers who are committed to the association and who demonstrate an understanding of the community being served. An effective HOA board should determine the mission and goals of the association. It should establish board and management policies and procedures and assure that financial resources are available and actively monitor the association's allocation of those resources in order to effectively and efficiently operate the association for the betterment of all its owners. When determining the mission of an association, understanding the type of association it is will be important. Is the association a traditional one, which will serve all members equally and require daily management? Or is it a specialized community which focuses on a specific lifestyle, such as one that allows for farm animals or ranching? When determining the goals of an association, board members will need to obtain an understanding of what its association will be responsible for when providing for its membership. The board should look at its governing documents to determine the extent of the services it will be responsible for providing. Managing an HOA is arguably the most challenging aspect of board membership. The board must make a determination of who will manage the association based on its needs and resources. Managing the HOA's day-to-day operations will require diligence, patience, skill, and professionalism. An association board must determine if they are willing and able to accomplish this function, or if they will bring in outside management to assist. An HOA can decide to self-manage their association, with the board members taking on those everyday responsibilities of operating the association. The board will have to take into consideration the time involved, since they are volunteers, the required skills necessary for certain tasks, the issues that their particular HOA encounters, including personality management of both co-board members and homeowners, and the cost savings of managing in-house. Boards do have the option of farming out certain segments of these day-to-day functions to independent professionals like bookkeepers, accountants, an attorney, or property maintenance person. In the alternative, an HOA board can decide to hire a professional manager to handle the responsibilities for the day-to-day operation of the association. The board is then responsible for supporting the functions of that manager, granting them sufficient authority, helping to ensure their success in managing the association. The board or the HOA's hired professional manager also has the responsibility of hiring additional vendors, legal, accounting, landscaping, insurance, other vendors, when necessary for the proper and efficient operation of the association. Currently, there are no licensing, registration, or other regulatory requirements for community association managers, also known as CAMs, in Colorado. While CAM licensing and regulation did exist in the form of the Community Association Manager Program, housed in the Division of Real Estate from July 1st, 2015 to July 1st, 2019, there is currently no regulatory oversight of CAMs. In May of 2019, the General Assembly passed House Bill 19-1212, which concerned the recreation of the CAM licensing program. The bill would have continued the CAM licensing program administered by the division for 1 year. However, on May 31st, 2019, Governor Polis vetoed House Bill 19-1212, and the CAM program expired on June 30th, 2019. What is the responsibility of a board member? HOA board members have an obligation to maintain a number of fiduciary duties and responsibilities. Let's discuss those obligations. The duty of care is a legal obligation imposed on an individual requiring that they exercise a reasonable standard of care while performing any acts that could foreseeably harm others. A standard that is applied in these circumstances is the reasonable, prudent person standard. The standard requires one to act with the same degree of care, knowledge, experience, fair-mindedness, and awareness of the law that the community would expect of a normal, reasonable person under the same set of circumstances. The duty of loyalty is a term used to describe a fiduciary's loyalty to a corporation, in this case, the board member's loyalty to the association and its owners. A board member should not be placing their own personal interests above that of the association and its owners. The duty of confidentiality. This duty places a restriction on the accessibility and dissemination of information by the board members in the scope of their duties. The duty of confidentiality is essentially a duty not to speak about confidential board matters to non-board members or share any such board material with non-board members unless authorized to do so. Section 38-33.3-317 of the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, or Kiowa, is dedicated to association records and includes language defining what records must be produced, may be withheld, and must be withheld. The may and may be withheld is in reference to the board's discretion regarding those specific records. Due diligence is the effort made by an ordinary, prudent, or reasonable party to avoid harm to another party or themselves. Failure to make this effort is considered negligence. Generally, due diligence refers to the care a reasonable person should take before entering into an agreement or a transaction with another party. Due diligence is essentially a way of preventing unnecessary harm to either party involved in a transaction. Used as an authority for legal research, Black's Law Dictionary states that due diligence is the attention and care required from a person in a given situation. And due diligence is the diligence reasonably expected from and ordinarily exercised by a person who seeks to satisfy a legal requirement or discharge an obligation. In many instances, there has been more liability placed upon board members, which in turn means the board members need to be more responsible and need to seek out more information in their decision-making process. The failure to act as such can open the association up to possible liability. Members of an HOA board of directors should always exercise reasonable care in making broad decisions. Board members should undergo the necessary research, investigation, and analysis concerning issues facing the association and hired skilled experts that they can rely upon in making those decisions that affect the association. Duty to be free from conflicts of interest. The HOA Center receives many inquiries and complaints concerning a board member's real or apparent conflict of interest when making decisions for the association. The concept of conflict of interest is addressed in Colorado law under the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act in Section 38-33.3-310.5 and in the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act in Section 7-128-501. A conflict of interest is defined in Black's Law Dictionary as a real or seemingly incompatibility between one's private interests and one's fiduciary duties. For an HOA board member, it means that one should always exercise independence of judgment in exercising one's powers and in making decisions. Board members have a responsibility to recuse themselves from their responsibilities anytime they have a problem keeping their fiduciary duty to the association and its members. They must always represent the best interests of the association. It is advisable to establish a set of board member rules to follow when dealing with any possible conflict of interest issues that arise within the association. These rules should be part of a conflict of interest policy, which lays out how to properly handle those conflict issues at meetings and when voting on related issues. Oftentimes, an association board must handle a very complex or time-consuming matter where they may be asked to deal with issues that require specialized knowledge, expertise, experience. At other times in the board decision-making process, it may be valuable to the board and the community to understand the history and reasoning behind past board practices and decisions. Non-voting advisory board members may be an option. Advisory board members may be able to assist with providing information, experience, and knowledge to the present board of directors. They could be utilized to handle a specialized project and act as a supporting role to the board. Some specialized area of expertise and backgrounds could be in the areas of business, accounting, legal, insurance, management, construction, and real estate. They may also be considered potential future board members, learning the board process and gaining experience for the benefit of the community. Past board presidents could be very helpful in explaining and filling in the history of the community. If you consider these types of board advisors, it is important to have written policies in place in the association's governing documents. Consider this type of advisor's purpose, their membership, appointment, termination, orientation, attendance, duration, authority, restrictions, guidelines, conflict of interest issues, and ethical concerns. Discuss this advisor concept with legal counsel and make sure that it is workable within the association's declarations and bylaws. Unless otherwise provided in the bylaws, a nonprofit HOA corporation shall have a president, a secretary, a treasurer, and such other officers as may be designated by the board of directors. An officer shall be an individual who is 18 years of age or older. The president heads up the board. He or she supervises all of the business and affairs of the board and acts as the spokesperson for the board of directors. The president also has authoritative direction to order actions in furtherance of the policies established by the board of directors. The vice president of an HOA acts in place of and with the authority of the president in those instances when the president is absent. Also, the board of directors can give the vice president additional duties to act on behalf of the association. The secretary maintains the minutes of the meetings of the association, as well as maintaining all of the association's records. Additionally, the secretary is responsible for keeping track of the HOA's activities to make sure the actions of the association are in accordance with the bylaws, keeps track of the board members' contact information, and informs the board about meetings and updates on the organization, and provides access to association records by its owners. The treasurer is the custodian of the association's monies and keeps accounts and receipts and disbursements in the association's books. Additionally, the treasurer is responsible for keeping track of the organization's financial condition, coordinating the HOA's budgetary process, providing annual financial reports, handling any audit reviews, and keeping the other officers and board members informed